Shalom, family. It's good to see you. And we'll just give it a few more minutes for people to come in. So, Jamal Bey, Teresa Bonds, and Anne of Yah, welcome. Shalom. All right. So, really, nothing has changed on my end. The governor is still going around the state, and come to find out, y'all, they are now saying, hi, Spencer, they are now saying that it's possibly 11 tornadoes touched down just based on the environment in some locations that shows all the signs of a tornado. So they're now saying there were possibly 11 tornadoes in New Jersey from the remnants of Hurricane Ida that came up here. So everything is still being assessed. As far as I know, children in New Jersey are starting school next week. And I got a video coming out a little later where the governor is saying the schools in New Jersey are not safe. Okay, so if the schools in New Jersey are not safe and you're aware of this, why are you sending the children back? You know, I mean, it's like the decisions that these folks make are not it's just not making any common sense at all. You know, it's just outright ridiculous. And oh, and by the way, I want to apologize about yesterday. Our internet went out for about 2 hours. And I started to come back and come on, and I said, you know what? No, I'm just going to start my videos for tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and reschedule what I was going to do with you yesterday. So we can get started. All right. So you guys know that every year the FBI put out crime statistics, and it's around this time every year. And it will show you all the crimes breaking down by race and everything. And by the way, we are not committing most of the crime in America. Despite the fact that people try to say we are the ones doing everything, we're not. Shalom, everybody. And it's just unnerving of how much we get accused of in this society. But it also proves who were under the curses, ladies and gentlemen. So I know it's bittersweet, but it definitely confirms who we are. You know, it's a constant attack that never goes away, and it won't. These folks will do this down to their last breath. They will do this. And it's just, that deeply ingrained. So don't be surprised. Even when we're on the final day and they're still doing this, don't be surprised. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will go over the hate crimes that were recently published by the FBI. Shalom, family. Okay, please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Please give me a 1. Thank you. Thank you, family. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. Okay. Now, despite the fact that the Asians got a hate crime protection from politicians, we are the group that get hit with hate crimes more than everyone else. And this is a very historic thing. This has been going on nonstop for centuries. And there is no group other than us that have been in the number one spot all this time. That's a fact. So the numbers that you see on the screen are from 2020. Remember, anything the FBI puts out, it's always a year behind. So as you can see, despite the fact that they've had Asians put in the media over and over and over for months until their crime bill passed and they stopped talking about it as much. So, we know the media was just helping them get the crime bill passed and making accusations that the Black community were the ones attacking the Asians, although we're seeing predominantly white people on video attacking Asians more than anyone else. So that was done to help pass the crime bill. If you believe we are doing it, then that's the reason for passing the bill. So, so they scapegoated off of us as usual. Nothing new, right? Nothing new. All right, so this is NPR. Hate crime research, the highest level in more than a decade. So this is September 1st, 2021 from NPR. There were 7,759 reported hate crimes in the US last year, the most in 12 years. So they said this is the absolute highest in 12 years. The FBI reported this week. But some experts and advocacy groups say the true number is probably even higher. Yeah, because anything they do to us, they always historically try to downplay it. Okay, so the spike in 2020 follows a recent uptrend. Yeah, but the uptrend is on us, not Asians. In bias incidents, and it was 6% increase from 2019 to 2020. That's what they're saying. Nearly 2 of every 3 hate crimes reported last year, 64% were motivated by bias against race, ethnicity, and ancestry. Now, nobody had a higher percentage than the Black community, but we are the ones without protection. Okay. So the FBI said all hate crimes, 36% were anti-Black or anti-African Americans. So the majority of the hate crimes in 2020 were done against the Black community, aka Hebrews, right? But the Asians, that as you can look, didn't even register. Their numbers were so low in hate crimes in 2020, it didn't even make this list that was categorized. You see this? This is the categories that had the most when it comes down to hate crimes, and Asians didn't even make it because their numbers were that low. But they got the protection from the politicians. Okay, so 10% were anti-white, which shows me, look, 2,755 were against the Black Hebrew community, right? And then anti-white 773. That number is so damn low and ain't even worth talking about. If you are not in 4 digits like the Black community, I really don't want to hear from the rest of you. I don't want to hear it. Okay, so that means we are getting way more than anyone else, as you can see by this chart. Okay, the FBI defines a hate crime as an offense that is motivated by, at least in part, a bias against a victim's race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, and gender identity. But those things are very low. Yeah, they may get hit with hate crimes, but nobody gets hit with it like us. And this chart proves it. Okay, everybody below us, they're not even hitting 1,000. So to me, not even worth talking about. The numbers released this week represent the hate crimes reported to the FBI last year. 15,136 law enforcement agencies across the country. So this is what they report. And remember, all law enforcement agencies don't even report crime to the FBI. This is just some of them. Some experts say the true number of hate crimes is likely higher. Of course it is. Since not every crime is reported to law enforcement, not every agency reports its data to the FBI, and many agencies report no incidents. And see, this is why so many police departments get away with what they do, because they technically don't have to report anything to the FBI. So if they're out on the streets on a regular basis harassing us, they don't necessarily have to report it. So it don't go any further than the police precinct. While these numbers are disturbing on their own, the fact that so many law enforcement agencies do not participate is inexcusable. Yes, it should be mandatory that all crime is categorized and placed in a database. It should be mandatory, but this is this lackadaisical system, where they can pretty much do what they want because they rigged it up that way. So the fact that over 60 jurisdiction with populations over 100,000 are firmly reported zero hate crimes is simply not credible. Greenblatt added. The increase also comes amid a rising hate crime against Asians. Yeah, but look at the categories. They didn't even register. All right, which means it was not enough to even post it when they made this bar chart. Wow. The National Coalition of, Stop the Asian Hate received 9,081 incidents that were reported of bias against Asians and Pacific Islanders between March 19th, 2020 and this June. Okay, the sudden increase in reported hate crimes against Asian people was attributed in part of scapegoating of the Asian community for the emergence of, we know, of the virus, which originated in China. And let's face it, Trump antagonized all of this too. He did. Remember he was calling it the Wuhan virus and the China virus, and they were getting all upset about it. I mean, he antagonized a lot of this stuff too. In a statement, Attorney General Merrick Garland said preventing and responding to hate crimes was among the Justice Department's top priority. But you know what? It can't be your top priority if you see that the Black, aka Hebrews, because we're the real Hebrews, are getting the most attacks, but you are blatantly going above and beyond to ignore it. Right? That's what they're doing. And they have been doing this all along. But it's amazing. You can see Asian hate crime, and they are getting a much smaller amount than the Black community. Then you see that, right? But the Black community that's getting 36% more than anyone else, y'all go blind and don't see anything. Unbelievable. So if you are not combating that and you're not making sure there is protections on the table for us, then all this extra side babbling, what does it really mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just the same thing we see year in and year out, every single year. These hate crimes and other bias related incidents instill fear across the entire community and undermines the principle upon which our democracy stands, he said. All people in this country should be able to live without fear of being attacked or harassed because of where they are from, what they look like, whom they love, or how they worship. Yeah, but y'all don't do that. You let Karen exist out here and do what she does, Darren, and your police officers. They all pretty much do the same thing. It's just one wear a badge and the rest of them don't. But I would tell you this 99 we're real no, I'm going to take that back 100% of the time when there's an altercation, they approach us. They approach us, and we keep seeing it one way in these videos, and that's because they are raised and taught and rewarded. Listen to me now. They are rewarded for messing with us. They pat each other on the back and say it's a good thing. This is keeping us in place, and it really isn't. At the end of the day, it's making yourself look unfavorable. That's what it really is doing. It's not having the effect that you think it is. It's not. And every now and then, y'all size one of us up wrong. And we've seen the videos where you'll get your asses handed back to you because that really proves you really don't know who you're approaching. And you don't know who's going to strike back out at you. Because if that were the case, we wouldn't see those videos of you getting your ass beaten. Okay, and that's a fact. So y'all don't size things up well at all at the end of the day. You really don't. So it's the same statistics that we see every year. Nobody gets the hate crimes more than us, but it just seems like everybody in this society gets protection and we don't. And we don't because we're their form of entertainment. You know, they are amused and entertained anytime they mess with us and get away with it. Because, I mean, look, sometimes when Karen is approaching us, you can see the damn smile on her face. How many times have we seen videos like that? Or even a random Darren that'll come up, same thing, got a smirk on his face. We see it in your face. And sometimes you can see it in their face before they even get their mouth open, that they're up to no good. You can see it written. They don't even realize they're not good at hiding their emotions. They're not. It's all over them. When they approach you, you know they're getting ready to say something foul to you. Before they even get their mouth open, you can tell, you can see it in them. See, they want to do these things, ladies and gentlemen, but they don't want to hear about it, which is unrealistic. That's why they're not seeing that happen. It's unrealistic to think you're going to always approach and do these soft hit jobs on people, because that's all it is. And we see so much of it because they're raised to do this. And ladies and gentlemen, they would have to be raised to do these things, because I saw this as a child. As a child, I saw white kids walk up and bother a black child. I've seen it. I've seen it through my life. Even as a child, I've seen them do this. That's how you know they are passing it from one generation to the next. We done seen it millions of times at this point, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of incidents and videos everywhere. So it ain't even no point in them denying it. It's so much evidence of it now, it's not even funny. So the people out here that voted for Joe Biden, the next time he opens his mouth and talk about how much he's done for the black community, always throw back in his face, where are the protections? Where's the bills to protect the black community? Don't let these people off the hook. Even the local politicians and these Congress and senators, because they were the ones that passed the Asian hate crime bill, and Joe Biden signed it. So the same people that were involved in that, we should be holding their feet to the fire. All of them. Congress, the Senate, Joe Biden, Kamala, all of them. Where's our bill to protect the community? Where is it? Why is it that you run to do it to people that ain't even getting a fraction of the harassment that the black community is getting, but you pass that with ease? No, you want us to be the forever internal whipping boys and girls of society, and you don't want that taken away. At the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. That's why you keep trying to sidestep us and act like we don't know what's going on. We know what we been knew what was going on. Been knew it. You know, no, a Juneteenth holiday is not doing something for us. Symbolic things. We don't need symbolic things. We need serious things like protection. That's what we need. We all this other stuff that you're doing, it means absolutely nothing in a dying society. It means nothing. You know, I mean, look, one thing about these folks, they never change. So if you go back in history, there is history written when our forefathers were out on the slave field. They would just walk up and start, you know, where that's where they get that go back to Africa. Do you know they were saying that during chattel slavery? They would just randomly walk up to our people that were breaking their backs and working hard in those plantations on the fields, and they would just randomly walk up and tell them, if you don't like it, go back to Africa. And don't they still say this to this day? You can go back in history and find them saying this centuries ago. Now, if they're going to pass something like that down through the generations, wouldn't they pass down the generations of them walking up and harassing you? Of course they would. Of course they would. I mean, they are walking around saying the same shit their forefathers said. They don't have no new thought or position about us. It's the same as whatever way their forefathers felt, that's the way they feel today. Plain and simple. And my grandfather, who was on my dad's side, actually both my grandfathers were sharecroppers. He had an incident that made the newspaper. The owner of the location he was a sharecropper in, his son would get drunk and go out and start messing with the black people that worked. My grandfather finally got tired of it, dealing with it day in and day out. He fought back. And because he fought back, this was during Jim Crow. Because he fought back, the Klan and the police came after my grandfather. And I know I told some of y'all this a while back. The Klan and the police came after my grandfather for beating up this dude that just wouldn't leave him alone. So he was doing the Edward Cagney Matthews thing on these folks back during sharecropping, right? So a couple of my cousins and my grandmother and my uncle, my grandfather's brother, were all in the house together. My grandfather didn't come home because he knew after beating this white dude up, they were coming after him. So when the police and Klan actually showed up at the house together, and I got a cousin, and I might bring her on one day to tell y'all about what happened. She was physically in the house. My cousin was in the house. She's a little older than me. They kicked in the door. And since they couldn't find my grandfather in the house when they kicked the door in, they took his brother. They took my Uncle John out in the woods and beat him. And he said no matter how much they beat him, he wasn't going to tell them where his brother was, my grandfather. They beat him so badly, he had all kinds of neurological problems for the rest of his life. He couldn't even walk upright anymore. When he walked, he was real bent over. My father, we were living in the city of Philadelphia at that time. My father had to go back down in the South. My father had to talk to the freaking police and Klan to get them off of my grandfather. So they came to an agreement to get my grandfather out of there. They didn't want him out there sharecropping anymore. So that was the agreement. And by then, some of the neighbors had already got my grandmother and my cousins out of there because they knew they were coming back. So my father was able to locate my grandfather, because we had we still do got all kinds of relatives down there. And my father and my uncle in Florida, one I talk about periodically, bought them a home, paid the mortgage for years to keep them safe. Though they had to go to a whole different town and start life over altogether. And the agreement was as long as my grandfather stayed out of that town, he could be free. So that's what happened. And my uncle and my father paid that mortgage for years. My grandparents didn't even have to pay their own mortgage. My father and my uncle down there in Florida paid the mortgage to keep them safe. So when these folks say to us, well, you weren't a slave. No, we may not have been slaves, but we have certainly felt the effects of many things that have happened in our families. Okay? Many things have happened in our families that we have lived through. And many of these things will stay with us forever. They will always be here. You can best believe that. So don't come and act like we don't have a reason to feel the way that we do. We most certainly do. You don't have no reason to be saying a damn thing at this point. And don't let these people say shit to you. They don't have a leg to stand on. You hear me? They don't have a leg to stand on. They have no business telling you a damn thing at this point. Nothing. Now, only if we can get our people to stop following everything they do. We still don't have that down. But you know what? Many of us aren't doing that anymore. And many folks, even around here, are saying they're not putting their kids back in these schools. They don't care what they open. So that is a good sign that some of our people are waking up and they are not following the things that these folks do. Let them do. They want to send their kids out to get sick and possibly end up in a hospital, then that's on them. That's not for us to worry about. That's their problem. You know, that's what they don't realize. It's not all about whether we were a slave or not, but a lot of the things that have happened within Black families, especially during Jim Crow. Those things are still with us to this very day. Nothing has changed. Nothing. So when we see these numbers, we're not surprised, but I'm not fully buying the numbers because I know they are a lot higher. They love playing with numbers in this society, you know? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. And all I have to say is look, we can't live out the fantasy of another group. We can only live in our reality. And that's the only thing we need to be concerned about. I'm sorry, I don't have time to worry about your feelings. I don't have time to be worried about, oh, well, you know what they gonna think. Somebody actually wrote that in one of my videos. Oh, you know what you might want to be a little concerned about what they. No, I'm too old to be concerned about those things. And I refuse to be concerned about it, period. I want to be concerned about my people. I want to be concerned about the hurt and pain they are going through to this very, very day. All that other stuff about what they going to think and what they feel, you can sit around and worry about that. I'm not going to do it. I'm too old to be worried about those remedial things. And that's the truth. That's the truth. I can't tell any story other than the ones that have happened to me and my people, period. All that other stuff, I could care less about. I don't care. They can't feel important unless we're helping along the way. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And too many of our people are still helping along the way for some odd reason. So, everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. And we'll definitely come back at another time and do this again. Shalom, family.